In 1843, Charles Dickens had a problem. His once-adoring readers were yawning. His publishers were anxious. His finances, as barren as Scrooge's heart, cold, empty, and echoing. Echo. If his next book failed, Dickens's career might be finished.
I am as light as a feather. I am as happy as an angel. I am as merry as a schoolboy. I am as giddy as a drunken man.
That line wasn't just Scrooge's cry of joy. It might as well have been Dickens's own salvation. This is the moment the ice cracks. The story's miser protagonist, Scrooge McDuck, Ebenezer Scrooge, melts, and the prose pirouettes. I'm Lee Stewart, and welcome to Pursuing Perfect Prose, where we go hunting for what everyone proclaims is that unicorn of literature, perfect prose. Disclaimer, so far, only Lee has proclaimed perfect prose a unicorn of literature. Literally everyone. We're discussing A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, more specifically, what is arguably its most famous passage. By this video's conclusion, we'll have answered a question bold enough to make Jacob Marley rattle his chains. Did Charles Dickens write the perfect paragraph? No homework is required of you to follow along. I've done it all for you. You're welcome. Here's the full paragraph.
I don't know what to do, cried Scrooge, laughing and crying in the same breath, and making a perfect laocoon of himself with his stockings. I am as light as a feather. I am as happy as an angel. I am as merry as a schoolboy. I am as giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody. A Happy New Year to all the world. Hello here. Whoop. Hello.
Let us begin. Act 1. The Miser, the Man, and the Mission. In 1843, Charles Dickens's latest novel, Martin Chuzzlewit, flopped harder than a fainting Victorian damsel. Failure hit Chuck hard. His earlier books, The Pickwick Papers and Oliver Twist, had flown off shelves. Chuzzlewit limped in like a three-legged donkey at the Epsom Fair Derby. Several reasons may account for this. Dickens released Chuzzlewit, for real, that name kind of helped, in monthly parts from 1842 to 1844 when serial sales were declining. It also had a cynical tone with unlikable characters. Perhaps the most controversial was when Dickens, in desperation, shipped his titular hero Martin off to America halfway through the story, at which point he started to lampoon American society. Bad move. British readers were baffled. What? American readers were furious. Grr. And Dickens's bank account began to look like, well, it was bad. So, with creditors knocking and his career on life support, Dickens locked himself in a room for 6 weeks. He emerged with A Christmas Carol. The turnaround might have been quick, but Dickens didn't rush his craft. He learned from his past mistakes. Where Chuzzlewit had been caustic and pessimistic, Carol was warm, redemptive, and uplifting. Rather than satire, Dickens consciously recentered emotional engagement as the tale's driving engine. Instead of a passive hero like early Martin, he gave readers Ebenezer Scrooge, who is instantly distinctive and goes on a dramatic, satisfying transformation. This latter point is key, as it solved Chuzzlewit's biggest flaw. No, not the name Chuzzlewit. Ebenezer was hardly the sexiest name out there, but that readers had someone compelling to follow. And how did it perform upon release? Is it only in retrospect that the work has become appreciated? Nope. It sold out its first printing in 3 days. Reviews raved, and Dickens was suddenly the toast of London again, with enough money to buy actual toast. And at the blazing heart of this redemption rocket, he wrote the paragraph we're about to examine. A paragraph that wasn't just a happy climax for Scrooge, but a career-saving exclamation point for Dickens himself. But is it perfect? Let's tear it apart and find out. Act 2. The paragraph that burst into song.
I don't know what to do, cried Scrooge, laughing and crying in the same breath.
This is a marvel of emotional contradiction. Scrooge, formerly the human embodiment of a locked safe, is now emotionally leaky. Laughing and crying in the same breath is a miniature oxymoron. Dickens loves juxtaposing emotional extremes, and this does double duty. It shows catharsis, decades of repression erupting in one wild gasp, and it sets the paragraph's rhythm, fast, breathless, punctuation light. Dickens strings clauses like fairy lights. Even the grammar matters. Notice the semicolon. Most writers would stop the sentence, but Dickens lets it careen onward, mimicking Scrooge's runaway joy. He sacrifices grammatical tidiness for emotional velocity, a hallmark of Dickensian prose. Fast fact, Dickens often performed public readings of his work and would act them out physically. This sentence feels written to be performed. It's easy to imagine him clutching his chest, laughing and sobbing for the crowd. Back to the prose. And making a perfect Laocoon of himself with his stockings. Show-off warning. This is where Dickens flashes his classical cufflinks. A quick history lesson for those unaware, Laocoon was a Trojan priest who got strangled by sea serpents, immortalized in the Laocoon and his son statue. Highbrow stuff. Well, not on Dickens's watch. He turns it into a man tangling with his socks. This is comedic incongruity at its finest. The grandeur of myth crashes into the banality of underwear. It's funny, but also brilliant character work. Scrooge has been the epitome of control, and now he's crying out that he doesn't know what to do while literally tripping over his own clothes. Even the sound of Laocoon matters, an awkward, knotted word that clogs the sentence's rhythm, mirroring Scrooge's physical entanglement. It's brief though, for with the next line, the rhythm immediately whooshes back into motion, like he's burst free. You can see then how, from this perspective, this one phrase does three jobs at once. It signals Scrooge's loss of stiffness, it shows Dickens's love of theatrical exaggeration, and it keeps the tone buoyant rather than sentimental, which is key. This paragraph never gets syrupy. It's too busy cartwheeling. Okay, next line. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy. I'm as giddy as a drunken man. Hoo-wee. I hope you're strapped into that simile cascade. This is where the prose lifts off. Notice the anaphora. Quick definition. Anaphora, the repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of successive clauses to create rhythm, emphasize a key point, and evoke emotion. Here, the anaphora is the repeated use of I am, which turns these three similes into a rhythmic chant. This is syntax as an emotional engine. He's hammering out his new identity, like a blacksmith during harvest season. And each image is a psychological milestone. Light as a feather is Scrooge shedding the dead weight of greed, a physical metaphor for spiritual unburdening. Happy as an angel alludes to how Scrooge has passed through judgment and been, in a sense, redeemed. Dickens, raised in the shadow of Christian morality, knew his audience would hear this as salvation language. Merry as a schoolboy, here comes childhood, that Dickensian obsession. For those who have either watched the movie adaptations or read this book, which I'd encourage in its entirety, you'll recall that earlier on, the Ghost of Christmas Past showed Scrooge as a lonely boy. This simile isn't random. It's closure. He has healed his inner child. Giddy as a drunken man is where, suddenly, the tone teeters. This isn't just joy. It's unhinged joy. Dickens lets the image lurch to the edge of chaos because pure happiness is dizzying and a little ridiculous. Let's also check how the vowel sounds expand as he goes. Light, happy, merry, giddy. Each word rounder and airier than the last. The phonetics enacts the lift. It's practically musical. This is Dickens at his most theatrical and most controlled, which is ironic given the chaos he's describing. We skip to the next line. A Merry Christmas to everybody! A Happy New Year to all the world! Now the perspective flips outward. Scrooge's voice goes public. He's moved from I am to now exclaiming to everybody. This is crucial. It's not just a selfish joy, it's a shared joy. Dickens ties emotional rebirth to communal responsibility, which was basically his personal brand. Note the parallel structure. A Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. To everybody, to all the world. It's almost liturgical, like a blessing. He's preaching, but merrily. This syntax makes the line sound timeless, which it is, and why, to this day, it still appears on Christmas cards. That's not just cultural luck. That's sentence architecture. Also, from a prose mechanics standpoint, he just recently fired 4 similes in a row. Now, he drops them and uses short, declarative bursts. That contrast gives this section emphatic punch. It's a cymbal crash. It's a perfect fill because things get extra tympanic with the final line. Hello here! Whoop! Hello! Notice how the language, it disintegrates into sound. This is what linguists call pure, expressive, phatic language. Words as emotion rather than meaning. It's the verbal equivalent of throwing confetti. Remember how the paragraph began with, I don't know what to do? It ends with him not doing language at all. That's how far he's come, from over-controlled miser to the babbling embodiment of joy. Even the onomatopoeia is perfect. Quick definition. Onomatopoeia, a word or the process of forming a word that phonetically imitates the sound it describes, e.g. animal sounds like woof or moo, as well as object or action sounds like bang or whoosh. In this case, hello is open-throated, woo is explosive. Indeed, there it is. The consonants bounce like bells. Dickens has engineered the acoustics of happiness. And then he stops, because he said everything and nothing, which is exactly the point. Act 3. The Pursuit of Perfection. This paragraph wasn't just the climax of a story. It was Dickens saving himself through the very act of writing. But did the cash-strapped idealist actually catch the unicorn? Did he, in this paragraph, achieve literary perfection? Well, let's summarize what he accomplished. He completed Scrooge's entire character arc in under 130 words. He built a miniature symphony of tone, from comic to exalted to chaotic to serene. He used grammar to shape rhythm, sound to shape emotion, and syntax to shape meaning. And he left us with lines so enduring they've become cultural wallpaper. And all this in only 6 weeks. Gosh, isn't it amazing what human beings can achieve under the power of ambition and anxiety, and probably buckets of coffee with the potency to strip paint? Let's move on. This paragraph embodies the themes of A Christmas Carol: redemption, joy, human connection, not just in its content, but through its form. That's the trick. It doesn't tell us Scrooge is happy. It makes us feel it in the tempo, the breathlessness, the crackling sound of it. But is it perfect? Well, that's debatable. Perfection is the thing we chase, not the thing we catch. So let's go contrarian for a second and call this paragraph archaic. I mean, Dickens can't resist cramming in a semicolon that would give modern editors a nervous twitch. And Laocoon, without the benefit of this video, he probably sent half his Victorian readers scurrying for a dictionary the size of a coffin. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments if you think it is perfect prose, and why, or why not. Perhaps perfection is impossible. The pursuit, however, is where the fun is. Read on!